Welcome back, everybody, to Joshua's Magic, a channel about how the ordinary world and the spiritual world intersect and interplay. Sometimes we talk about more spiritual things, sometimes we get into how they apply to the material world. Today, in the weekly live stream on Alice Bailey Quotes, we're going to be talking about the topic of telepathic communication. And after analyzing the quotes, we're going to have a little exercise in telepathy at the end of the video. And yeah, feel free to ask any comments or questions. I'll try to get to all of them. But the first quote we will be considering today, and you can find these on Instagram and on Minds. The link is in the description below at Joshua's Magic. The second activity to which the mind responds as the result of the illumination is telepathy. It has been said that illumination itself may be regarded as the highest known example of telepathy. For throughout the blazing forth of that supreme enlightenment, the human soul is a percipient and the father of lights, the agent. The human soul is the percipient and the father of lights, the agent. The agent may work through the medium of many minds, for the world of the soul is the world of group awareness, and that opens up a field of contact which is wide indeed. Sorry, I just had some issue there with this new setup. Hopefully it's not going to cut out again. So, not only is many minds, for the world of the soul is the world of group awareness, and that opens up a field of contacts which is wide indeed. Not only is the soul a man in rapport with the universal mind, but also with all the minds through which that divine purpose we call God may be working. In this way, we can account for the coming forth of the steady stream of illumined writings and of the world messages down the ages, which have guided the thoughts and destiny of men and brought them forward along the path of realization from the stage of animism, fetishism, to that of our present concept of immanent deity. From the point of view of man, sorry, this light seems to be causing. So we'll have to sacrifice a bit of the lighting to make sure we can continue the stream here. Okay. From the point of view of man and nature, we have I don't know why it's doing this. From the point of view of man and nature, we have progressed to that of a divine whole in which we live and move and have our being, in which we are identified in consciousness. We know ourselves to be divine. One after another, the sons of God have entered into their heritage and found themselves sensitive to the world plan. They have, through steadfastness and contemplation, equipped themselves to act as interpreters of the universal mind and as intermediaries between the non-telepathic multitude and the eternal fountain of wisdom. To the illuminates of the world, to the intuitive thinkers in all fields of knowledge, and to the telepathic and inspired communicators, can be traced the best that man now knows, the origin of the great world religions and the triumph of science. So basically, the soul is the agent that communicates these telepathic impressions to people. And this illumination which comes to the soul or through the soul is responsible for all sorts of triumphs of science and religion down the ages. People didn't just like come up with these ideas by two and two together. But this spiritual light shined on them, and through that, God's plan was able to take place step by step. So, continuing to the next one. We have the occult significance of speech. The old scripture saith, in the multitude of words there wanteth not sin. From Proverbs 10:19 in the Bible. Because in a tide of words at this stage of man's evolution, many are spoken purposelessly or from motives which, when analyzed, will be found to be based purely in the personality. The greater the progress that is made along the path of approach to the mysteries, the greater the care that must be taken by the aspirant. This is necessary for three reasons. First, owing to his stage in evolution, he is able to enforce his words in a manner which would surprise him could he but see it on the mental plane. He builds more accurately than the average man. His subsequent thought form is more strongly violized, and it performs the function wherein it is sent by the sound or speech with greater precision. Second, any spoken word and consequent thought forms built, unless along a higher path and not based on personality impulses, is apt to cause a barrier of mental matter between a man and his goal. This matter or separating wall has to be dissipated before further advance can be made. And this process is karmic and unavoidable. Third, speech is very largely a mode of communication on the physical levels. On the subtle levels wherein the worker stands, in his communications with his fellow workers and chosen co-operators, it will play an ever-lessening part. Intuitive perception and telepathic interplay will distinguish the intercourse between aspirants and disciples. And when this is coupled with full trust, sympathy, and a united effort for the plan, we will have the formation wherewith the master can work, and through which he can pour his force. The master works through groups large or small, and the work is facilitated for them if the interplay between units of the groups is steady and uninterrupted. One of the most frequent causes of difficulty in group work and consequent arrest of the inflow of force from the master temporarily is based on the misuse of speech. It brings about a clogging of the channel for the time being on the mental plane. I mentioned these three factors for this question of group work is of vital importance, and much is hoped from it in these days. If in any organization on the physical plane, the masters can get a nucleus of even 3 people who mutually interact, I choose the word deliberately, and who disinterestedly follow the path of service, they can produce more definite results in a shorter space of time than is possible with a large and active body of people who may be sincere and earnest, but do not know the meaning of trust in, cooperation with each other, and who guard not the gate of speech. So there's a lot there in that quote. One is the importance of speech, and more than just thinking, when you actually say something, you're bringing that. The speech is kind of the ritual for the soul of the thought that you're saying, the ritual manifested into reality. So when you actually speak a word, you're concretizing it to some degree. You're making that thought come to life more. And you can, like you said, create walls to your goal and between you and other people with the wrong use of speech. Are you speaking because you desire something or you have an emotional reaction? Or is it because you carefully considered either at the time being or beforehand what you're saying and find it to be a wise and just thing to say in that moment? So it's something to contemplate on. What is right speech? What is the right thing to say in any given situation or moment? And another interesting thing he says here is when if you could get even three people, there's kind of a triangle of people who mutually cooperate and follow the path of service disinterestedly, not from a place of passions or desires, you can have a far larger effect than a big organization of people who don't. The the energetic potency there, that mutual interaction where there's reciprocity. Like I'm willing to help somebody when they need and they're willing to help me. I listen to other people and they listen to me. How often in relationships is it lopsided? Even if it's not totally lopsided, like somebody never listens to me and I only listen to them. But it's like maybe somebody listens to you 70% of the time and you listen to them, 30% of the time. There's some mutuality there, but it's really not on par. And trust is another part of that. Do you follow through with everything you say and don't commit to things that you're not willing to do? Um, or are you expecting other people to sort of forgive you and trust you, but you're not willing to have that same level of forgiving and trusting them when they're untrustworthy? So it's a high bar, but if you can find people who are even interested in mutually cooperating, that's a good thing to be able to practice with people and have that kind of open dialogue where you can say, I don't think this is working for this reason, and would you listen to me more? Or, they may have a criticism of you. Can you do this differently? I think this is disrupting our relationship. And to listen to that in a spirit of goodwill and take on the constructive criticism and learn from it and try to better the situation. Because if that's really your goal, to have this group dynamic that works, then somebody saying you're doing something I don't think is working, that's not really going to upset you as much because you want the thing to work. And if you're doing something that's not making it work, then you want to fix that. But we will move on to the next quote. So this one is about telepathic dreams. So this was a list he was doing, and there was only so much room, so I just did two of the segments. Telepathic dreams. These dreams are simply the record upon the brain consciousness of real events which are telepathically communicated from one person to another. Some friend or relation undergoes some experience. He seeks to communicate it to his friend, or at the moment of crisis, he thinks powerfully of his friend. This registers on the friend's mind, but is often only recovered in the hours of sleep and is brought through in the morning as a man's own personal experiences. Many of the dreams related by people are recordings of the experience of other people, which a man becomes aware and which he is appropriating to himself in all sincerity. So you have some dream where you're in a car accident, it's really bad, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, that must have some meaning to me. But the meaning might be that somebody you know was in a car accident and they were thinking of you when it was happening, and that got sent out. And it's an interesting concept that people pick up things telepathically, but they don't register it consciously. And then in the dream state, it can sort of play out or unfold there. And I think people think of telepathy as, oh, you get this message and it's consciously registered, when they don't realize it can impact your mental or emotional vehicle or your etheric body and have its effect on you, but you don't consciously realize what it is. And it might come out in another way, like in the dream state, or it might come out that you just start thinking about some person out of the blue that you're not inclined to think about, but it might be because you had some telepathic impression from them. We come now to a group of dreams which are a part of the experience of those people who have made a definite soul contact or are in the process of establishing a close link with the world of souls. The things of the kingdom of God are opening up before them, and the phenomena, the happenings, the ideas, and the life and knowledge of the soul realm are being registered with increasing accuracy in the mind. From the mind, they are being transferred or implanted in the brain cells. We have therefore 7 dreams which are dramatization. This type of dream is a symbolic performance by the soul for the purpose of giving instruction, warning, or command to its instrument, man on the physical plane. These dramatic or symbolic dreams are becoming increasingly numerous in the case of aspirants and disciples, particularly in the early stages of soul contact. They can express themselves in the hours of sleep and also during the meditation period or process. Only the man himself, from his knowledge of himself, can rightly interpret this class of dreams. It will be apparent to you also that the ray of the type of the soul and of the personality will largely determine the type of symbolism or the nature of the dramatization employed. This must be determined, therefore, by the psychologist before interpretation can be intelligently given and usefully provided. So this is from esoteric psychology, by the way. But as you're starting to come into contact with the soul, these dreams that represent uh, the world of the soul, the kingdom of God, might start coming through to you. And sometimes these dramatizations of the soul of these dreams might come through of, like you said, the soul might have a particular message or instruction or a warning to you. Um, and the soul plays out a dream which represents this or tries to convey this lesson to you. So dreams aren't always nonsense. Sometimes they can have a real meaning. I remember there's a saying in Subu, this other spiritual group that I'm a part of, that the dreams that happen in the just before you wake up are usually from God or from a higher source. They're put there so that they're like in the forefront of your mind when you wake up. By the way, if you're enjoying this stream, if you're getting something out of it, please leave a like on it. Really help out, and consider sharing it with somebody who might also appreciate it. But let's move on to the next quote. Regarding telepathic communication. Oh, this is something I wrote. These are my thoughts on it, by the way. Regarding telepathic communication, there are 2 directions of flow, sending and the receiving, the male and the female. In developing telepathic capacity, I think one must start by developing the needed sensitivity to receive. The main goal should be receiving impressions from the soul. This is the path of safety, as attempting telepathy on mental or emotional levels can open you up to harmful energies and forces. However, with a solid connection to the soul in place, the lower telepathic power can be unfolded for use as the need for them in service to God and man arises. I believe the sending aspect of telepathy can safely begin to be used when a significant measure of soul control, meaning the soul's control over one's personality, has been achieved and the individual has developed a reasonable ability to keep the mind centered in the light, unlike my vocal ability to keep my voice centered in what I'm reading here. Messages, ideas, impressions can then be sent to others that will be in alignment with the soul and thus helpful and not harmful. Those who are able to receive higher ideas, concepts, energies, and send them out to responsive minds are needed in the unfolding of God's plan for humanity. Sometimes people need a bridge between the source of inspiration and themselves. In an analogous way, a storyteller takes some idea, fleshes it out, and brings it to people's consciousness as a play or a movie, thus acting as a bridge between the realm of ideas and the public. On a higher and subtler turn of the spiral is the work of those who serve the divine plan through telepathy. So this was touching on the Tibetan talks about the group of telepathic servers, and that's what they do is they receive ideas either from masters or the universal mind or some higher source, and then they distribute them telepathically to those who are responsive to them. And not necessarily like targeted, like, oh, I'm thinking of this president or this celebrity or whatever, and trying to get it into their mind. It's more like putting it out there, and whatever minds pick it up, then they wind up distributing it. But something else I would point out here is the way I put it is a little bit strict. It's like only soul contact, and then you can do telepathy. I don't think it's a problem to do some little experiments in telepathy here and there, but unless you're developing soul contact to go full whole hog on like developing ESP and telepathy and psychic stuff isn't a good idea. But some experiments, like if you were to participate in the Gansfeld experiments where, you see in Ghostbusters, he's got the cue cards, I think that kind of stuff's okay. And I'm going to do something similar to that at the end of the video. So stick around for that. Okay. And here's the last quote from yesterday. One of the interesting things that is happening, one of the factors which will serve eventually in the work of demonstrating the fact of the soul, is the mass communication is is the mass of communications, inspired writings, and telepathic dictations which is flooding the world today. And again, this was in the middle of last century, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. As you know, the spiritualistic movement is producing a vast amount of this inspired or pseudo-inspired literature, some of it of the very highest order and unquestionably the work of highly evolved disciples, and some of it most mediocre in quality. The various theosophical societies have been the recipients of similar communications, and they are found in every occult group. True communications are frequently of deep spiritual value and contain much teaching and help for the aspirant. Students of the times would do well to remember that it is the teaching that is of moment, not the supposed source. By their intrinsic value alone, these writings and communications must be judged. These communications emanate in the majority of instances from the soul plane, and the recipient or the communicator, the intermediary or the scribe, is either inspired by his own soul or has tapped the thought level and the knowledge of the ray group to which his soul belongs. He tunes in on a reservoir of thought, and his mind and brain translate these thoughts into words and phrases. In a lesser number of cases, the man who is receiving a dictation or writing is in telepathic rapport with some more advanced disciple than himself, and his mind is being impressed by some chela in his group. This chela, who is closer to the master than he is, passes on to him some knowledge that he has absorbed through being able to live within the master's aura. But the master is not concerned in the process. It lies between the chela and the aspirant. In these cases, the receiver of the communication is often misled and thinks that the master himself is dictating to him, whereas in reality he has, through a more advanced chela than himself, tuned in on the master's thought atmosphere. So all these sort of channeling and inspired writings that have come down since the Theosophical days, he's saying they're largely good. I mean, a lot of them are mediocre, some of them are very high quality. But when you look at them, don't worry if it's supposedly from Jesus or the solar logos or whatever. Worry about the intrinsic quality of the writings. That's how you truly judge them. And he makes another interesting note that some of these writings, somebody will be tuning in and they'll sense it's from a master, but it's actually from a disciple within the master's group that's communicating it to them. But it has that signature, that energy of the master in it. And so it can be confused at times. So those are the quotes for the week. And we will go into this experiment. So at the end of each of these, I try to do a little either meditation or just give you some thought to think about during the week. But this one, I'd like to try an experiment. And I'm going to think of three colors. And if you want to participate, take a minute to tune in and see what color you think I said. And so there'll be color one, color two, color three. And these will be Roy G. Biv. So those, 7 colors. And then write them in the comment section. And then at the next week's live stream, I'll reveal what the colors were and see how accurate people were. So when you write it, just write color one, this color two, that color three, the other thing. All right, so color one, I'll focus in on now. Okay. Color two, I'll focus in on now. And color three, I'll focus in on now. All right, I think this will be an interesting experiment. And if you needed more time to focus on those, you can rewind the video and pause it there. But yeah, I'm excited to see what people's responses are. And if you have any other comments or questions, leave them below and I'll try to get to them. But oh, and I'd make one additional request of you. If you use Instagram, uh, head over there and leave a like on some of my posts. The way Instagram works is if you don't like the post, they kind of stop showing them to you. So anybody that's willing to help me get the message of these teachings ideas out, yeah, check out my Instagram and leave a like on some posts and follow if you haven't already. But thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. And it's great to have a group of people that are interested in these ideas and be able to deliver them. So until next time, this has been Joshua's Magic, and may the force be with you guys. Take care.